confidence booster, procrastination, line in the sand, believe in yourself, top 10 goals, creating boundaries. We have covered so much in the Discover Yourself series. Thank you for being here. Are you still here? We're day 21. So pat yourself on the back. If you are still here, you're doing a great job. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. You are never behind. You're right on time for a word from God. As a matter of fact, in a short amount of time, 14 minutes today, I'm going to make it, you are going to receive a promise from God today. I promise you that you're going to be so motivated when you walk away from today that you're going to return and you're going to be excited to do your own Discover Yourself series. And your workbook is free. It's over on heatherbaxter.com. Right up at the top, you can grab your workbook, download it, create it, put it in your own little Moleskine or Happy Planner, whatever you want. You can put it in pages like this. But listen, I want you to dap with God. What does dap with God mean? Dap with God. Are you ready for today's lesson? It is so good. If you are, and you want to know what dap with God means, keep watching. Ready? Dap with God. Discover a promise. Let's first, because I'm so excited to tell you what DAP means in the real world, let's discover this promise together today. It is in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 4. Let's read it. Here it is on display for you. That is the same page that you will see in your notes if you download. If you have your notes, read along with me. Glory and virtue, by which have been given to us exceedingly great and precious promises, that through these you may be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. We have been given exceedingly and precious promises from God. We have been empowered by His divine nature. I don't know about you, but in a minute, I'm going to show you what has been given to you and what will be given to you if you dap with God. Dapping with God is discovering a promise daily. That promise is what's going to manifest itself inside of you to help you experience precious riches and precious blessings and be empowered by divine nature. Now, that all sounds great, right? And you're thinking, okay, but why is everyone so drawn to every video on YouTube that is about the universe being in your favor and manifesting this on your vision board and manifesting and seeing this and it coming into your universe, all of this stuff? When we look at a verse like this, it's all about manifestation of God. It's all about God's divine empowerment being given to you. But there's something that we have to do on our part, and that's where the word dap comes in. So I was curious, like, what does this dap mean? Well, it shows a depth of intimacy between two friends when they high five, elbow nudge, jump in the air and hip punch or whatever that is, a big hug with any kind of silent gesture that is deep friendship. There's a connection there. That is what dap means. I thought it was so cool. Now, dapping also means when you're fishing and you're dapping the worm up and down, that's also called dapping. So there was two. And I learned a new word today. So I'm super excited about this word dap. Discover a promise. And that is our lesson today. What happens when you discover a promise? What happens? What will you manifest? That is what I want to show you today. The first thing that's going to happen is things are going to be granted to you from God. All godliness, all the riches, and all the promises are going to be granted to you in your life situation. You will be empowered whether you are in a valley or on a mountaintop. See, God's divine power has granted us His divine nature, has manifested in us. And we participate in this by discovering a promise and believing in it and walking in it and having faith in it. That's how we begin to experience His divine nature. And it actually goes a step further. We begin to develop ourselves. This is where spiritual maturity starts. We develop ourselves into the nature of God by discovering a promise. We can't just manifest everything we want and it be given to us. We have a responsibility to dap with God. In order to discover ourselves, in order to discover the next level of ourselves, when we dap with God, we begin to go on this development adventure. We can't go on an adventure with God and experience everything in the divine without developing through a promise that He's trying to teach us. So Do you see where it's a lot different than just turning on a devotion and listening to a warm fuzzy or actually exercising it out? See, there were 2 studies this past year that we did here in the ministry. One was the book of James, where you had to work it out. Work out your salvation. Work out your faith. Try it on. And that's what God's calling us to do, to develop us into that divine nature and for us to experience the empowerment He has for us. This is taking us through the sequence of character development: perseverance, self-control, brotherly love, endurance, godliness. All of those are part of our character development, which leads to the divine nature. That's our divine nature. That's our maturity in Christ. Our maturity only comes through discovering a promise, dapping with God, getting into that relationship in the morning and high-fiving God in a promise. As it grows, it becomes large and beautiful. It's likened onto a seed, and Jesus talks a lot about a seed. As a matter of fact, we did a study also this summer called Bloom Where You're Planted. It's all about the seed. Now listen, a seed has everything in it, but it's undeveloped. Everything in it, and it's undeveloped. And God says, plant this seed in me. Water it, discover a promise, and it's going to grow into what I've called it to do, what I have placed inside of it. See, my seed looks different than your seed. Your seed looks different than your husband's. Your seed looks different than your kids. Each one of your kids' seed is different. And God will develop and mature as you discover Him, as you discover a promise. See, truth is a promise, and a promise is truth, and truth is Jesus. So it's high-fiving Jesus every morning, coming into agreement in what He's doing in your life. He will develop your entire vision board. He will develop your entire story. Everything in your life wheel is a seed that already has a plan. And God's giving us all the resources, everything that we need now, and that is required of us, and He will give that all to us through His divine nature and empowerment. It's just up to us to discover a promise and grow. Now, I have to end with a really great story today because it was so visible to me. After I read today's devotion, it was like God put something right in front of me, and it just blessed me. It blessed my socks off. Does anybody ever say that? Anybody ever say in your life, blessed my socks off? Well, it did. My daughter came in, and her boyfriend goes to Michigan Tech, which is a highly engineering performance school. So lots of stress. He's in his final semester, his actual final year. He'll be graduating, but exam season right now, and he is just overwhelmed. Anxiety, crying, overwhelmed. And he is one that has to see it fixed now, or has to see it done now. And if something is incomplete or not working out, because engineering brain, right, and it's not coming together, he gets highly frustrated because he needs to see the fix part now. And she decided to open up her Jesus Calling book and read him today's verse. Today's verse was all about being thankful for God's promises and His divine nature, because He's given us everything we need. Even in the times where we feel it's not fixable, we just have to dap with God a little bit and give Him those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to reshift our perspective, to let us know it's good. If not, darkness will take over in your mind when you do not dap with God. And she was able to help him, calm him, and shift him because God is that good. And it blessed me that she knew that she had the tool to give her boyfriend. You have tools to give your kids. You have tools to give your husband. Whether they want to listen or not, you have the power to pray that promise over them. You have the power to speak that over them. Dap with God and get the promise you need to discover for your maturity, and dap with God to get the promise that you need for others. Leave a comment below with an emoji of any type of high five, thumbs up, whatever it is, and capitalize DAP. Let me know if you are excited to dap with God in 2025. I love you, sisters. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow in day 22. Bye-bye.
You didn't get that job, even though you really gave it your best. And now you're wondering what's the point of anything at all? But let me tell you what, that's just life putting you through the test. Before the dawn, it's always dark. Before the light,